What have you done for me lately?
Right?
Right?
Oh, that's right. I had a walk-up song.
That was your tune
that.
right there.
Yes.
That was your tune right there.
Janet Jackson's having a resurrection, so I'm happy.
So just give us the very 30,000 foot. Stephen, how are you guys working together with them, and what is your objective here?
Yeah, so we actually met Sonya back 3 years ago now at the CMI conference in Las Vegas. I know some of y'all were there. And our goal is to work with her and her team to get LGBTQ visitors to Sacramento for leisure travel and for business travel. So coming up with a multi-year strategy and roadmap to get us there. And we've been really thankful for Sonya to let us help her with that.
Great. So I'll let you guys do your present, and we'll just keep it as an informal conversation.
Sounds good. So these are some of our high-level goals for the LGBTQ initiative. We really want to get local leaders and local community members involved as much as possible. I'll touch on that a bit in the advisory group section that I get to, and really just tell Sacramento's local stories and introduce it as a destination for people to think of when it comes to LGBTQ travel. One of the big barriers we're up against is there's obviously San Francisco, there's LA, there's San Diego, there's a bunch of other cities in the area that people think of first, but Sacramento has a lot of rich stories to tell for this community, as I've learned from working with Sonya and her team. So it's really just getting those out there and getting those in front of people. We were just talking yesterday that a bunch of travelers just were there that she invited, and they loved Sacramento. There were so many things that they didn't know about the city, and it's really just getting that in front of them. And also using leisure travel to help drive business goals, since it's a big meeting and convention city. So here's our high-level timeline for what we want to roll out. It's meant to be a multi-year roadmap, just to show us and also the community members we engage with that it's not just a one-and-done thing. It's not, hey, we're here, we're doing something and showing face. It's really something that we're committed to in the long run. So you'll see 2021, 2022, us kind of getting started. Stuff underlined has been done, and the rest of it is something we're planning for the rest of the year. Like a photo shoot, we don't really have much brand LGBTQ photography, so making sure when we're doing our outreach and our marketing efforts that we're not just using stock photos, we're not using heterosexual couples and just other things. We really want to make sure it's authentic. And as you see, we roll into 2022, 2023, and beyond. It's really just ratcheting up our efforts, more focused content, video, inviting influencers, starting a newsletter, and just really engaging further and further to get people to come to the city.
Stephen, for those who don't know, talk about brand tone, what exactly that means.
Yeah, so brand tone is basically how we want to talk about the brand, and like there's do's and don'ts. We actually have the privilege of working with their agency of record, Position Interactive. They're a great group of people to work with. We work really well together, and they set the main brand tone for how we talk about the city, the kind of verbs we use, the nouns we use to really get people to come. And then we take that and we tweak it just slightly to make it fit for this audience. So there's just certain ways to talk and certain ways we don't want to talk about the city. So just making sure we're all really consistent on message. So the advisory committee is where I want to spend a good amount of time for this presentation, because I think they're a really important group. So basically, the advisory committee is a group of locals in hospitality, in leadership. We have people, the Gender Health Center is a big contribution to this group. There's the owner of Outward Magazine, who is their big LGBTQ publication. There's chefs, people who own bars, people who just put on different community events. And the goal is really to get all these people together in the same room and people whose voices may have been left out of tourism conversations, and really having them be part of what we're doing. So they're really integrated into what we're doing. They're helping us advise what's going on in Sacramento on the day-to-day, because we don't know about this. I don't know about y'all's cities, but the cities I've worked with and where I live in New Orleans, it's so hard to find LGBTQ events. Like everything, it's word of mouth. You go online and the website's from 2018. Like you don't really know what's happening. So having all these people in one room really helps us figure out what's going on, and we're able to promote that to the general public. And then have them tie into what we're doing. So SAC 365 is a calendar on Visit Sacramento's website where we can then tag events as LGBTQ, and a lot of these people didn't even know about that. So then anytime visitors are on the site or even locals are on the Visit Sacramento site, they can search for events that are tagged LGBTQ just from the conversations we're having in this group and just really raising awareness. I think the one big tricky thing that Sonya and I have to balance a lot is this group, they want a lot of things. They want the community to be, more advancements in the community, but their goals aren't necessarily tourism-related goals, right? So they don't necessarily fully understand what our objectives are. So it's really just helping have those conversations and turn those into tourism-related goals. So for example, one of the members that works in the health space was asking us if we can help with, STI testing and different stuff like that. And we're like, that's a really great initiative. That's not a tourism goal. So I'll get to this a little later, but we are then able to help from us being there and our expertise in the space is really getting those goals that they want and finding a unique way to have it tied into tourism so that, everyone's, seen at the table and everyone has opportunities to be heard and using what they're telling us to actually make a difference.
Yeah, I think it's important that we don't, we're not shutting their ideas down. I think that's really key. It's important for any of us, right? They want to be heard. And then I can work with Communify really to help shape what direction that idea can lead to. So that's been very important, very critical to have having Communify on board. And then we look for ways to partner with upcoming conferences. So the example I give is we had an opportunity to bid for an LGBTQ sporting event at the very last minute. Something fell through with their previous destination. They were looking for someone. And the fantastic thing about having the advisory committee, I could go to that group and they galvanized and they got together and we needed letters of recommendation or we needed testimonials, letters, or businesses, LGBTQ businesses, what they could offer for this group. And they pulled together. I was able to work with one of the key leaders in the community. He pulled together some folks and they were able to pull something together for us in literally like 48 hours. And we were able to present to this group what we bring to this particular sporting event. I will tell you, we did not get the bid. They went to another city because sometimes money wins in the end. But having said that, we are now on their radar. I don't have to work as hard the next time. And really, it's obvious, there's money involved and there's space involved, but they know that we're there and they know that we are an LGBTQ-friendly destination.
The LGBTQ community is very organized, as you all know. So being able to tap into them, they know so much about what's going on locally that it really, really helps.
Yeah, it's great.
So this is one of the initiatives that came out of the group. It's a community planning calendar for 2022 events. The goal of this was basically, there's no real repository of all these things, so getting them all down in one place and distributing it to the advisory group meetings, and then they can distribute it to their communities so that we know what's going on kind of throughout the year. It's also a good things that we have then to promote. We know when there's things going on, we can show them to leisure travelers, et cetera. So I think it's a really great resource. And then you see here on the right side of the screen that we also wanted to include a bunch of LGBTQ organizations, so not just events, so places that might have smaller things going on that you can check out their websites. It's just a really great way to get everyone involved and kind of on this simple one-sheeter.
What I love about this too is this really was driven by the advisory committee. They were the ones who really suggested that they wanted something that was specific to the community that we could add. And I think what happens when you're the DMO, you often have the platform, but you may not have all the pieces to put everything on the platform. So by us being able to connect, this is what was the result of having that committee. I jumped ahead. This is the community. This is the sporting event I was speaking of. But you notice that we have one of the owners of one of the nightclubs there, a ally resource group, the Bowlers League, and again, like I said, it was able to pull these voices together to indicate that Sacramento is a welcoming city and wanted to host them. Those of you again know in DMO space. Groups want to feel wanted, and so this is a big part of what we are able to do.
So this actually, I know most of y'all were here yesterday when you heard Sonya talking about those scholarships that were given out to the Farm to Fork Festival. These are two LGBTQ farmers that were able to participate at the Farm to Fork Festival because of everything that was going on in the advisory group and the DEI efforts led by Sonya. So it just kind of goes to show full circle that with everyone working together, you can really get some community members involved and make a real difference just from having these simple conversations.
Yeah, you were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Farm to Fork. Yeah.
Yeah, the one on the right, Epicay, they were able to, they all sold out, quite frankly. Walnut Farms, literally, it's a Friday night and a Saturday all day. Walnut Farms had to get more product for Saturday. That's how fast they sold out on the Friday night.
So this is a campaign that we ran recently. It was a Summer of Pride sweepstakes, so we did it in 2 parts. We wanted to split it up to lead up to Pride, and then after kind of the sweepstakes ended, we still wanted to promote the city as an inclusive destination. You'll see the logo on there is on Sonya's shirt. Right now, we also had t-shirts that we made and we gave out to the community. The Gay Men's Chorus got a bunch of t-shirts and just a bunch of stakeholders that was paid for by Visit Sacramento. So this campaign had a few goals. It was to reach LGBTQ people. These were ran on programmatic display ads and also on Facebook and Instagram to try to reach that audience. And the goal was to promote Pride and other events throughout the summer. So they have Wednesdays at the Square, which is it Wednesdays or Fridays?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at the Square.
Yep.
Promoting their food scene in general, outdoor activities, just different things you can do over the summer. So this took people to a form to register for the sweeps. And it was a landing page where you signed up and then learned a little bit more. We started this in April to show that, the LGBTQ community is so used to seeing things, driven to them in media in June. So we were like, we want to make sure this is something that we're starting early so people aren't just getting these messages in June. And like we were saying before, it's a multi-year effort. So these types of things will roll out in the fall. We have plans for some media then too. So it's obviously not a one and done, but wanted to start it before June so people really got to see what we were about leading up to Pride Month. And then this is just the creative for the second flight after the sweeps ended. Obviously we needed time to contact the person, get them there for Pride. So we just are still running the campaign, but now it's just more about what Sacramento has to offer in the summertime, not about driving people to sign up. Actually, one of the other great things about getting the sign up, so we got about 1,000 entries for our sweepstakes, and then we had an opt-in for a newsletter. It wasn't just a box that was already checked. It was something people had to go out of their way to do so. And about 550 or 600, so 55 to 60% of people actually checked that box that said they want to learn more about what LGBTQ Sacramento has to offer. So it wasn't just to win this contest. It was actually to learn more about the destination year-round. And now we have those email addresses that are great qualified leads, and we'll be sending out them emails on a quarterly basis to get people involved and try to get them to visit. And the great thing about the media, it was really targeted towards their audience that Sonya has been for years, and they know who their audience is. So it's a local drive market mostly, so people in the Bay Area, Reno, 4 or 5 hours away from the city in a drive market. So it's really targeted leads of people who have a good chance of coming to Sacramento in the future if we speak to them properly.
You mentioned metrics yesterday. One of the metrics I have or one of my goals actually is to have, I think I wanted to collect at least 300 new email signatures for us to remarket to, and we surpassed that goal.
So this is another thing I'm really proud of. It's a microsite that we did. If y'all are curious about it, it's lgbtsacramento.com. We wish we could do lgbtqsacramento.com, but that domain was taken. But for just getting that vanity URL a week ago, the fact that was available was actually awesome for us. So it's pretty easy to type in. The URL is much longer. If you're redirected there, you'll see a much bigger URL. But this also came out of the advisory group, kind of going back to that. That's kind of our North Star. And the conversations were, we really want a resource for people in the city to, LGBTQ visitors in the city to have when they're here for what to do, different things that are going on. So At the bottom of the site is actually LGBTQ health resources. So that was a way that from the conversation earlier where we were like, we can't really necessarily help with this STI testing directly, that's not in our lane. What is in our lane is being able to put it in the kit. So when people are in town and they have a health emergency, they have LGBTQ affirming providers that were vetted by people in the community, and that's on the microsite as well.
So this is actually the de facto LGBTQ plus portion of the regular site?
It's actually separate. So there
it
is an LGBTQ portion, which is much more built out, but this is, we built a microsite instead of a PDF because we know when most people are going to see this on their phones, and having a PDF is really not the most user-friendly thing. So we turned it into a fully mobile optimized site so that it's, if you're on your phone, you should be able to see it. It works pretty well instead of just one of those PDFs. And the goal here is also to work with the sales team, right? So we're going to be sending this, this just rolled out and it's kind of a soft launch for now, but we're going to be meeting with Sonya's whole sales team and coming up with a strategy to really get this in front of different meeting planners so that they're like, hey, we do have resources for LGBTQ people.
So from content updating and content creation points of view, how does this pair with what the LGBTQ plus information you have on the regular site is? Is it?
Yeah, so this is meant to be more evergreen content. There's not a lot of, if you're on the site and you see the different big events, how we do it is like, this is an early May, right? So that for all year long, this doesn't really have to be updated. It's a pretty evergreen piece so that, it's not like specific dates.
So it's more like overview, evergreen stuff.
Yes.
And on the site, you would find the actual listings.
Right. On the site, we'll be able to do more timely blogs. So we're like,
are
hey,
they linked to each other?
On the site, there is a link to the microsite, and then a lot of the links on the microsite go back to the main site. So they're kind of, they're interlinked that way.
Great.
Yeah. So that is everything.
So what were you doing before this? What was the outreach look like? Did you have something in place, or did Communify come in just to do this for you?
We had very poor content in place. As you know, we talked about the effort. We made the effort, but we did not. We did not sustain it. Gotcha. Quite frankly, I had a member of my team prior to the pandemic who actually was very good about trying to maintain some content there, but it wasn't very good, and we knew it. Like, we knew internally that we needed to do better, but we also know that where we were putting our resources at the time was not led to that. And then, like he said, I will tell you that we were literally about to sign a contract with them in March of 2020.
Wow. And so all the stuff you did, the creative was done by your agency of record?
Correct.
Who is that?
They're called Position Interactive, and they're actually a local.
Looks beautiful.
They did an amazing job. Yeah. One of the opportunities that came out of the pandemic for us, despite losing about half our staff, once things started coming back and we were able to, we actually saw a little bit more budget. We put a lot of our budget into an agency to build up our brand for us.
So the entire Communify piece here, is this a multi-phase? Was this pitched as one thing altogether? Talk me through that.
Yeah, so how we start is we do like an audit of their content currently and come up with the roadmap. That was if I go back, if this works, might be on a completely different slide, but the 3-year plan that you saw was something that we kind of helped devise. Thank you. This one.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of the roadmap that we laid out. So it's kind of continued content. As Sonya was saying, so like this was done by our agency, but what we did is we took the brand playbook from the agency of record. So they did the whole concept. So everything here is basically just us taking it and kind of refining it a little bit just to speak to this audience. But like those swirls and kind of like the way that it's all laid out was all done by their bigger agency. So it's just kind of how we help is we help refine the stuff, and we can version it out for this audience specifically.
I mean, it's impressive. It's nice and clean. It's scalable. To your point, Sonya, it's measurable, right? You can say, hey, we spent this much on it. Can you give me a ballpark for what something like this would cost a DMO?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of depends on the size and scope of the DMO, what they want us to do. I don't know, I don't remember exactly how much it costs, but I'm happy to talk to anyone about that specifically, but it really depends on the size and scale. But
I mean,
clearly,
brand strategy wise, we're easily up to $7,500K just brand over the year, over the past year. With these guys, we have a contract that's based on the scope of work with these guys. The nice thing too is we're not an intermediary between them and physician. They have each other's contact information. And they talk directly.
That helps.
We stay out of it.
It's great.
It's
It's
fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, this is impressive. I loved continuing our conversation, DEI, to see examples of what we talked about yesterday, Sonya, and congrats on this. And thanks for your time. Give it up for them, please.